Imagine standing at the crossroads of history where two nations, India and Pakistan, compete not just for regional dominance but for global recognition. For decades, the world has been told that India is the rising star, the country destined to be America's closest partner in Asia. But behind the curtain, a different reality is unfolding. Quietly, strategically, and inevitably, the United States is beginning to see Pakistan not as a secondary option, but as a nation it cannot afford to overlook. This is not just about politics. It's about geography, security, leadership, and the will of the people. It's about the bold voices who dare to speak for Pakistan with dignity and the contrasting figures who compromise that very sovereignty. It's about why the US, despite all appearances, keeps its doors open to Islamabad. While carefully balancing its ties with New Delhi, today we will uncover the truth behind this shift. We will explore why Pakistan's role is far greater than most people realize, how powerful individuals shaped this journey, and why global superpowers are once again forced to pay attention to a nation many underestimate. Stay with me until the end, because what you are about to hear is not just a story of diplomacy, it is a story of Pakistan's rise on the global stage and the truth the world needs to understand. Pakistan's geostrategic location has always been one of its most valuable assets, shaping its relationship with global powers, particularly the United States. Situated at the junction of South Asia, Central Asia, and the Middle East, Pakistan holds a natural position as a gateway to some of the most significant trade and energy routes in the world. To the west, it borders Iran and Afghanistan, linking it directly with the Middle East and Central Asia, both regions critical for energy resources and security dynamics. To the east, it shares a long border with India, a country the US often views as a regional competitor to balance. And to the north, Pakistan connects to China, the rising global superpower that has become America's primary strategic rival. And this geographical placement gives Pakistan an irreplaceable role in the calculus of Washington's foreign policy. For decades, the US has understood that access to Pakistan means access to routes and influence that cannot be achieved elsewhere. During the Cold War, Washington engaged closely with Islamabad to counter Soviet influence in Afghanistan. Later, in the early 2000s, Pakistan became the frontline state in the US-led war on terror, providing crucial logistics routes, intelligence networks, and military support that were simply unavailable in neighboring countries. These experiences reinforce the perception within the US establishment that Pakistan's geography is not just about maps. It is about access, leverage, and influence over wider regional dynamics. In today's era, where global competition between the US and China is intensifying, Pakistan's location becomes even more important. The China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, CPEC, a flagship project of China's Belt and Road Initiative, runs directly through Pakistan, connecting China to the Arabian Sea via the Gwadar port. For the US, ignoring Pakistan would mean leaving one of the most strategic choke points entirely in China's hands. Therefore, Washington sees engaging Pakistan as a way to maintain some level of balance in this corridor of influence. Moreover, Pakistan's proximity to Afghanistan keeps it central to any US calculations about regional security. The US may have withdrawn troops, but its concerns over terrorism, extremism, and stability in the region remain. Pakistan provides both access and influence that Washington cannot replace with India. Geography gives Pakistan a bridge-like quality, whether in trade, military, logistics, or diplomatic outreach, that is impossible to overlook when shaping long-term strategies. It is not a matter of choice for the U.S., it is a matter of necessity dictated by the land itself. The United States has long recognized Pakistan's significance as a military and security partner, especially in times of regional conflict and global security challenges. Since the early years of the Cold War, Pakistan has played a vital role in aligning with American interests, particularly in containing Soviet expansion and later in supporting U.S. operations in Afghanistan. This history of cooperation built a foundation of trust between Washington and Islamabad, where Pakistan was not just seen as another ally, but as a crucial state whose military and intelligence capabilities could directly influence outcomes in South and Central Asia. One of the strongest aspects of this relationship has been Pakistan's powerful military establishment, widely considered one of the most organized and capable in the Muslim world. For the U.S., Pakistan's armed forces have acted as a reliable partner in intelligence sharing, counter-terrorism operations, and regional stabilization efforts. During the War on Terror, Pakistan provided the U.S. with access to its air bases and ground routes, allowing American and NATO forces to sustain their operations in Afghanistan. Without Pakistan's cooperation, the logistics of supplying a war thousands of miles away from the U.S. would have been near impossible. Beyond logistics, Pakistan's Inter-Services Intelligence, ISI, became a critical partner in hunting down terrorist networks that pose threats to global security. Even in the shifting geopolitical environment of recent years, the U.S. still views Pakistan's military and security apparatus as indispensable. The American government acknowledges that no country in the region has the kind of influence over Afghan factions and militant groups that Pakistan does. This makes Pakistan a gatekeeper for stability in Afghanistan, a role that Washington cannot overlook despite political ups and downs in their relationship. Moreover, Pakistan's nuclear capability adds another dimension, as the U.S. prefers to engage and maintain stability rather than allow misunderstandings or hostile influences to destabilize such a sensitive arsenal. Leaders like General Qamar Javed Bajwa and his predecessors maintained direct channels with American military officials, ensuring that despite political differences, the security relationship remained intact. This consistency has often been more reliable than India's approach, where military cooperation with the U.S. remains limited by New Delhi's cautious foreign policy and dependence on Russian defense system. Washington, Pakistan's proven history of collaboration in high-stakes security matters reinforces the perception that when it comes to real-time, ground-level military cooperation, Pakistan is often a more dependable partner than India. This security bond continues to keep Pakistan relevant in America's long-term South Asian strategy. The growing influence of China in global politics has forced the United States to reconsider its approach towards Pakistan, making the China-Pakistan-U.S. relationship a delicate yet critical triangle. With the launch of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, CPEC, Pakistan has become the centerpiece of China's Belt and Road Initiative, linking Western China directly to the Arabian Sea through Guadalport. This corridor not only shortens China's trade routes, but also positions Pakistan as a strategic hub for global commerce and energy supply. For the U.S., this development raises concerns because it strengthens China's economic and strategic foothold in South Asia, a region Washington considers vital to balancing global power. Rather than abandoning Pakistan and leaving the field entirely to Beijing, the U.S. finds it necessary to engage Islamabad to maintain its influence. This engagement is not just about economics, but also about keeping a balance of power in the region. If Washington ignores Pakistan, it risks allowing China unrestricted dominance in a region that directly affects global trade, security, and energy flows. Therefore, even as the U.S. strengthens its ties with India, it realizes that Pakistan is too important to be left fully in China's orbit. This is why we see American officials consistently reopening diplomatic, military, and trade dialogues with Pakistan, despite moments of friction in the relationship. Pakistan, for its part, has leveraged this triangular relationship to its advantage. By deepening ties with China, it has increased its bargaining power with the United States. Islamabad understands that Washington cannot afford to see a key geopolitical corridor completely dominated by its primary global rival. This gives Pakistan room to negotiate, whether in terms of economic aid, security cooperation, or diplomatic recognition. It creates a balance where Pakistan does not have to choose exclusively between China and the US, but can maintain relations with both, extracting benefits from each side. For the US, this triangular dynamic also provides an opportunity to prevent China from achieving absolute influence in South Asia. Engaging Pakistan means keeping a channel open in one of the few countries where China has invested heavily and enjoys significant goodwill. By maintaining relations with Islamabad, Washington ensures that it has at least some level of presence and influence in shaping the future of South Asian geopolitics. This triangle is less about friendship and more about necessity, but it ensures that Pakistan remains central to the strategies of both global superpowers. India's rise as an economic powerhouse has attracted global attention, but its recent policy shifts and regional behavior have raised concerns in Washington. While the US continues to value India as a large market and a counterweight to China, it has also grown cautious about New Delhi's increasingly rigid stance in global diplomacy. India's protectionist trade policies, reluctance to fully align with the West, and its ongoing dependence on Russian defense systems have complicated its image as a reliable partner for the United States. This creates space for Pakistan, which, despite its own challenges, positions itself as more flexible and cooperative in areas that matter most to Washington. One major factor shaping the shift is India's domestic policies, which have drawn criticism from international observers. Issues related to religious freedom, human rights, and democratic backsliding have raised questions in Western capitals about India's global image. While New Delhi continues to maintain strong relations with the US, these internal developments limit its ability to project itself as a universal model of democracy and openness. For Washington, which often emphasizes values alongside interests, these concerns create a degree of hesitation when it comes to presenting India as the only strategic partner in South Asia. In contrast, Pakistan has actively tried to rebuild its image as a country focused on regional stability and international cooperation. By emphasizing its role as a mediator in Afghanistan, its participation in counterterrorism, and its willingness to facilitate peace talks, Pakistan has highlighted its usefulness beyond just bilateral ties. This pragmatic approach contrasts with India's more assertive, sometimes confrontational policies in the region, particularly with its neighbors such as Pakistan, China, and even smaller South Asian nations. Another important dimension is India's cautious stance in global conflicts, particularly its neutral position on the Russia-Ukraine war. While the US expected stronger alignment, India's continued reliance on Russian oil and weapons exposed a gap between American expectations and Indian priorities. Pakistan, on the other hand, although not entirely aligned with the West, has demonstrated more willingness to engage on security cooperation and maintain dialogue, which reassures U.S. policymakers seeking consistent support. These factors combined mean that while India remains important to the U.S., it is no longer seen as the only partner in the region. Pakistan's ability to present itself as a stabilizer, coupled with India's increasingly complex global image, explains why Washington continues to balance its relationships with both countries rather than placing all its trust in New Delhi. Imran Khan's emergence on the global stage marked a turning point in how Pakistan projected its image to the world, particularly to the United States. As Prime Minister, he emphasized sovereignty, dignity, and a foreign policy less dependent on external pressures. His bold speeches at international forums, including the United Nations, resonated with audiences in the West and beyond by openly challenging narratives about Islamophobia, highlighting the plight of Kashmiris, and stressing Pakistan's role as a responsible nation. Imran Khan built a profile that elevated Pakistan's global recognition. For many in the US and Europe, he came across as a leader willing to stand firm, not as someone willing to bend under external influence. This authenticity and straightforward approach gave Pakistan credibility at a time when its image was often defined by others. In contrast, Shahbaz Sharif's leadership has often been clouded by allegations of corruption, nepotism, and mismanagement. For Washington, such figures are easier to deal with because they tend to prioritize short-term financial gains and personal political survival over national dignity. However, this comes at a cost to Pakistan's reputation. But its government has been seen by critics as leaning heavily on foreign aid and IMF loans, while failing to present a vision for Pakistan's long-term independence. His pragmatism, rather than being celebrated, is often perceived as weakness, reinforcing the stereotype of Pakistan's leaders depending on Western approval for survival. This weakens Pakistan's bargaining position, making it appear more like a country run by leaders willing to compromise sovereignty in exchange for economic relief. General Qamar Javed Bajwa, despite holding the most powerful position in the country during his tenure as Chief of Army Staff, is remembered by many Pakistanis as a figure who aligned the military establishment too closely with U.S. interests. Under his leadership, the army was frequently accused of acting like a dollar army, prioritizing American funding and military aid over national sovereignty. Instead of creating a vision of independence, the military establishment appeared to reinforce dependency, which frustrated a large section of Pakistan's population that wanted a more self-reliant foreign policy. This contrast in leadership styles highlights why Imran Khan gained popularity both at home and abroad, while figures like Shahbaz Sharif and General Bajwa are often associated with compromising Pakistan's independence. For the US, this mix of strong nationalist voices and pliable leadership within Pakistan creates both opportunities and challenges, but it also explains why different personalities shape America's approach to Islamabad so differently. Public opinion and the popularity of individual leaders play a decisive role in shaping how the United States engages with Pakistan and India. In Pakistan's case, Imran Khan remains the most recognized and admired figure, both at home and abroad. His straightforward manner of speaking, emphasis on sovereignty, and criticism of Western double standards earned him a following far beyond Pakistan's borders. Even in the US and Europe, large Pakistani diasporas as well as neutral observers saw him as a leader with conviction, rather than one who operated only for personal or political gain. This level of popularity gave him a platform that Washington could not ignore, since engaging with Pakistan meant indirectly acknowledging his influence on public sentiment. Leaders who command mass support often make it more difficult for foreign powers to dictate terms, which is why Imran Khan's tenure brought moments of tension but also respect in how Pakistan was perceived globally. On the other hand, Shahbaz Sharif, despite his political experience, does not command such organic popularity. His image has often been tied to corruption scandals, backroom political deals, and dependence on foreign institutions like the IMF. While he is easier for the US to negotiate with due to his willingness to compromise, his lack of genuine mass appeal weakens the perception of Pakistan's leadership on the global stage. Leaders seen as unpopular at home often struggle to project strength abroad, making their diplomacy appear transactional rather than visionary. This reality means that while Washington may find Shahbaz Sharif convenient, it does not see him as the type of leader who can inspire lasting credibility for Pakistan internationally. In India's case, Narendra Modi enjoys significant global visibility, but his popularity is polarized. While he is admired by some Western circles for his economic policies and efforts to modernize India, he faces heavy criticism for his handling of minority rights, restrictions on press freedom, and rising authoritarian tendencies. These issues tarnish India's image as the world's largest democracy and limit how enthusiastically Washington can embrace him without facing domestic and international criticism. For the US, this dynamic creates a balance where personalities shape engagement as much as policies do. Pakistan's leaders who project strength and independence, like Imran Khan, influence how the US treats Islamabad, while weaker figures like Shahbaz Sharif or military leaders seen as submissive dilute that influence. In contrast, India's global image under Modi complicates Washington's desire to present it as a flawless democratic partner. In conclusion, the shifting dynamics between the United States, Pakistan, and India reveal a truth often hidden behind political headlines. The US is not making choices based on emotion, but on hard realities: geography, military cooperation, global power balances, leadership credibility, and public opinion. Pakistan, despite its challenges, continues to occupy a position of undeniable importance. Its strategic location, its role in security operations, and the influence of leaders who project independence make it impossible for Washington to ignore. At the same time, India's rigid policies, internal controversies, and inconsistent global positioning have complicated its relationship with the US, preventing it from becoming the sole partner America can rely upon in the region. This is why Pakistan, with all its strengths and struggles, still holds the ability to shape the balance of power in South Asia and beyond. As we move forward, the real question is not whether the US will choose Pakistan over India, but how Pakistan can strengthen its own hand in this equation by ensuring sovereignty, unity, and leadership that truly represents the will of its people. If Pakistan embraces this responsibility with confidence and vision, it can not only secure its rightful place on the global stage, but also build a future where it is respected not just as a partner, but as a nation of influence and dignity. I wish you all good luck in your journeys, your struggles, and your dreams for a stronger future. Thank you for giving your time, your energy, and your attention. May we continue to rise together with courage, with wisdom, and with unshakable hope.